Hello and welcome back to the Rilla Revolution. Now, if you missed it in the previous week or at the start of this week, there will be 2 more weeks before we get another batch of custom courtiers because these are all being backlogged so that, well, there's videos over kind of the holiday period. So this week we had a lot of deaths, most of them natural death. I don't think it's hard to work out what happened. Basically, we hit the point where all of the ones that were added in week 1 are starting to die naturally if they haven't already died. So yeah, we got a lot to get through, so let's start. First up today we have Balerion Blackfire, who died of a natural death. Well, technically died of a coma, but pretty much same difference at this point. He was married to Cassandra, and together they had no children. Next up we have Quintilian Valerian, who was slain in cold blood by, I believe, his son, by Bernard. So, definitely things did not go well there. He had 2 wives. He had Rosalind, and he had Dinah Norwich. How did his first wife die? Was murdered by Quintin, or by Quintilian. Yeah, that didn't go well. So his son is actually a follower of Faith the Seven, is married to Hara Mormont. And his daughter is a R'hllor follower, and she's too young to be married. Next up we have Godric Greyjoy, who was murdered. Don't know by whom, but he was also a Black Brother. I presume he was married at some point. He was probably married to Meria Marbrand, but it breaks that when you become a Black Brother. He had 1 son, who is Baron Greyjoy, and he is married to Ferega, who is a Braavosi Moonsinger. Interesting. So she's also away in Braavos, which is weird because he is not in Braavos, he's in the Iron Isles. Okay, weird. Next up we have Tywin Rain, who I believe we exiled to the Night's Watch. He has risen up through the Night's Watch and got command of Newgift before dying of gonorrhea. Before he went to Night's Watch, he did marry Eliza, but together they had no children. Next up we have Randall Spicer, who was murdered, not entirely sure by who, but he was married to Victoria, who died several years later, who had gonorrhea, and he had 1 daughter, Elise Spicer, who married Lord Sumner Craigcall, who was hanged on the orders of Lord Paramount Tyrion of the Westlands. They had 3 children together, and 2 of them are still alive. Next up we have Sir Thor, the Mountain That Rides. He used to be Thor Clegane, he is now Thor Goldmere. He got a whole bunch of traits while he was here, included things like blind and stuff like that. And he had 2 wives. He married Anne Arryn, who died of grayscale, and he married Rosalind Volmark. I don't know which one had the child with him. That was Rosalind. And she is Meline Goldmire. She's married Sir Gunther Caron, and together they have had 1 son. Next up we have Gwynymere Ryder, who was formerly Gwynymere Stark, a bastard. And he died of gonorrhea fairly recently, yeah, only 2 years before this video. He had 2 wives. The first one was beheaded by himself, and the second one was Lyanna Mordor, who I've not heard of that house. It's not very big, so I guess it was created during the game. Anyway, so he managed to get the Lordship of Driftwood Hall all the way up here, which is pretty good. And his daughter now holds that land. His daughter has regularly married Lord Morgan Middle-Liddle, and together they have 1 daughter, Sarah Liddle. Next up we have Dagon Umber, who died a natural death. He had 3 wives. He had Barbara, he had Linara Umber, presumably his cousin, and then Munda. He had many children with him. He had Leona with his first wife. He had Robard with his first wife. He had Jojen, also with his first wife. Erina with his first wife. In fact, I think maybe he had all of them with his first wife. Nope, this one with his second wife. But with his third wife, he did not have any children. Next up, we have Asha Dane, who died from complications of being blinded, which I love the phrasing of that one. But yeah, I imagine there are many complications of being blinded. Do you want to be more specific? Anyway, he was married to Sinella Wells, who was mauled to death by a bear on the orders of Lord Vorian II of the Torrentine. Together they had 4 children. They had Rakasso Dane, who has married many people, none of them very interesting. Then he also had Theoden Dane, who has married Jane Ladybright, Olvar Dane, who has married Elia Wells, and Doran Dane, who has married Ella Dane. Next up we have Samuel Bloodcat, who died a natural death. He was married to Fryn the Unfaithful, who had another child aside from the one that they had together. who died, unfortunately, stillborn. Next up, we have Toby Tully, who sought to take down the current leaders of the Trident, which I suppose he sort of succeeded in the fact that one of his relations went and took over the entire Trident, and the power structure has been in flux since. So he became the Lord of the Red Fork. He had two wives. First one was Jocelyn Mallister, that was hung on the orders of Lord Rotgar Arryn. The second one was Adora Piper, who is still alive. He had 4 children. Kellis Tully, who died of food poisoning, I think. Yep, married to Follard. Helia Tully, who was married to Mohar of Stiffen, who is of Riprin. Caitlin Tully, who is not married yet. And John Tully, who is currently, it says of the Trident, but yeah, High Lord of the Trident and Lord of the Red Fork. So he's actually got even more land than his father had. Next up, we have Lucas Blackwood, who died a natural death. You may be seeing a pattern for the next couple. He was married to Cass, who died of winter fever. Quite a lot of people also died of winter fever recently. We had a whole bunch of plagues come through the area. But he has one child, who is Sir Willem Blackwood. And he's a knight, and an ambitious one at that, so fun stuff could happen there. Next up, we have Andros Tarley, who died a natural death. He did rise up to become Lord Commander of the Night's Watch after getting banished there. And, you know, he did pretty well. He was favoured by R'hllor. He was a bit of a tyrant, though. He did do that murdering a child thing, which was a little bit unfortunate. He had one child before he came to the Night's Watch, Sir Wallace Tarley, who married, I think Celise Tarley was at one point Lord Tarley or something, but he at the very least married his cousin. And then he had a child himself. Well, he had 2 children. One died stillborn. The other one is Rilla Tarley, who has married Willem Blackmont. Next up, we have Kinster and Aaron from the Gulltown line. He died of depression. He was married to Elaine, and they had 3 children. One died stillborn, one died of the Grey Plague, and the other one is still alive, but is unmarried. Next up, we have Rotgar Arryn, who took over the Vale at one time as a claimant, went off and became a pirate, and then came back to the Vale again, so he kind of did a full circle. He died of the Grey Plague. He was married to Shiera, who died, I think, a little bit earlier than him. Nope, 1 year after him. And they had 4 children. Unilla Arryn, who is married, was that a Walding? I've not heard of that house. And previously married a Hershey, and has also married a Wycliffe, so lots of marriages for him. Uther Arryn, who I believe married Alain Stone when she was in charge of the Vale, and is now married to Mera. Who was that? Is that blinded or something? Or what's up with her eyes? I guess it's just a weird graphics thing for whatever culture she is. It might be Lyseni. Anyway, siblings, he also married. We have Royce Arryn, who is not yet married, but still fairly young, and Mikkel Arryn, who has married to Myrmelius, who also has the weird eyes and is also Lyseni. But yeah, a lot of pirates in their family because they kind of moved around into pirate territory. Next up, we have Zatanna Zoe, who unfortunately failed her ambition to make her own noble house rise up in Westeros. But she did carry on the Trant house because she married Sir Davin Trant, who has since remarried. But together they had 3 children. If we go back to her, they had Gladden Trant, who has married another Trant, just Trants all over the place. They had another daughter who was stillborn, and then they had Flora Trant, who has married to Joffrey Mertens. Next up, we have Captain Tyrone the Wise of the Second Sons. So this Lannister kind of bounced around from court to court. I think he was even in our court for a while. We may have exiled him, in fact. But he died of the bloody flux after getting in charge of the Second Sons. He had 2 wives, Amari and Yorka of Cheverick. Is that? Yeah, that house just got made up by the game. Anyway, together they had 1 daughter who is about to reach marriage age, pretty much. How can you really have a claim on Second Sons as well? Getting on this one, like, could she do a war for the Second Sons? Like, if that was a strong claim, could you actually do a proper war and take it over? I've never thought about that for a mercenary company. I have to assume that you can't, at least not as a player, but maybe the AI can. Anyway, who knows? Next up, we have Trider Blackmane, who died of dysentery. He was married to Orel Ball, who is now our lover, as in our character. He had 1 son, Trigger Blackmane, who has a couple of traits, is about to reach marriage age, and he was involved in a lot of court intrigue with us. Next up, we have Vanar Blackfire, who died from complications of being blinded. He was married to Scalera, and together they had no children. He was also involved in a whole bunch of, well, not so much court intrigue as trials by combat, so that was pretty fun. Next up we have Zan Targaryen, who actually changed his name to Zan Diomarius. I'm not entirely sure if that's how you pronounce it, but there we go. He was married to Gwendolyn. Okay, all these names. Gaileneus? It doesn't really fit really well with how I would say names, but okay. Or Gillineus? Gillineus is a little bit better. Anyway. And then he married Belagard. Together they had 2 children. Vogaro Dionysus, who died of the Bloody Flux, who had no children but was married to somebody else. And he has a daughter who is still alive and matrilineally married to Vasaro Velaros. I really need to avoid doing anything over in Volantis. Next up we have Frederick Celtigar, who died comatose in bed, basically a natural death. He was married to Taita, and together they had 1 son, who is Pate Celtigar, married to Anara Buckler, and he has had a daughter, Dalla. Next up we have Royland Snow, who died frothing at the mouth from rabies. He had a lot of stuff going on. He tried to kill his wife, he was involved in trials by combat, he's favoured by R'hllor, he's chosen by R'hllor, he's dishonourable, and he married twice. He married Aurelia Flowers, and then a little bit after her death he married Narba, who's actually already died. Also, a shout out to, I think it's King Lemonese, who has been doing a whole bunch of large backstory stuff for the character in pretty much all videos up to the point where he left our court. So that's pretty cool, and go and check it out. Next up we have Lord Auspicious Estamont, who rose to be the head of the Estamont noble house. He died under suspicious circumstances. He was murdered. He was married to Belendra Hasty, who, died of complications related to gout. And he had 2 sons, Alan probably, Estamont, and he also had Courtney Estamont. Next up we have Sibas Baratheon, who died of winter fever, so he kind of got caught in the huge kind of plague thing that went around. He didn't marry because he was a Shadowbinder who came back to Westeros to help out his brothers. Next up we have Edward Brindlewood, formerly known as Edward Snow, as he was a bastard of Robert from the North. He had a wife, Dolessa Tully, and he had 4 children with her. Robert, who is in charge of his lands now, which is now Storm's End, which he was given. So he may get, like, this house may end up getting the entirety of the Stormlands if, whoever's leading, I forgot who his name is, Lothar, ever decides to give it away. If Lothar does not decide to give it away, he still has Storm's End, which is pretty good given he started with nothing, who has 1 son who was just born, and he married Lady Helena Dondarrion. So Dondarrion's a fairly good house to be a part of as well at this point. He also has several other children. He has Tyna, who is not yet married but could be. He has, we keep going back up, he has Geryon, I don't know, who is betrothed to Maria Tarth. And he has Rhonda Brindlewood, who is not married at all and died stillborn. Next up we have Lord Ralthalzar of Rathrock, otherwise known as Ralthalzar Lofston, who came to our court expecting nice things to happen to him. He got a lordship, everything was fantastic, and then I chose him to be, like, he was our friend. I asked him, would you do this trial by combat with me? And he said yes, and he was slain by Guillard. So not exactly the best outcome. He was married to Leona Weber, and he did have a daughter before he died, who is nice alive and Lord of Rathrock, who is betrothed to Edmure Ashe, who is our cousin and our heir. Next up we have Fashbinder, who was the Red Priest in our court who was responsible for Royland Snow's wife's death. So that led to us having to imprison him, and then we decided to execute him to burn him for the Lord of the Light, and found that option was no longer available, so we beheaded him instead. Next up we have Marcon Melphis, who died of complications of being blinded. Again, my favourite one. He was married to Bria, who died of the winter fever, and together they had a son, Alistair Melfis, who has not yet reached the age where interesting stuff really happens to him. Next up, we have Tristo Sunderland, who died of the flu. Unfortunately, he was one of the courtiers I created in the same week as he died, which is very unfortunate. But it has to happen just through the odds. He married Esmersand Faring, and they had no children. And last but no means least, we have Pudding Wendane, who died of the winter fever. She was matrilineally married to Aegon Seacourt, and they had one child together, Peros Wendane, and he is only 4. Right, that is all the courtiers that have died this week. I told you there was a lot of them, but we still have to go through all the ones who are alive. So let's get through these fairly quickly. We have Rhaenyra Hester Quidar, who is still up there in the Night's Watch. He's been there since the start and is probably going to stay there. Then we have Red Priest Oris, who is also still alive. It's odd, the ones who can't have children seem to stay alive a very long time. I wonder if there's any kind of coincidence there. Probably, it is just a total coincidence, by the way, but I think it's fun. I think he had gout at the end of last week as well, in which case he's doing very well for surviving. Next one we have is Ivan Hill, who is a lunatic incapable. He is on a new wife, I think. Maybe a new wife, maybe not a new wife. But he's married to Kellera Chambers, and he had 6 children with his previous wife. Yeah, but he probably won't be surviving too much longer if he is incapable. The next one that we have is Anselm Stark, who is still alive in Bravos. He's still General, Bodyguard, Lord of the North. I think he's on a new wife as well. Looking at the dates, it would not surprise me. And he has a child, Rickard, who I think was there last time we looked. Next one that we have is Adam Mormont, whose son has actually died. So it's now his granddaughter who holds Bear Island. Is matrimonially married to a Lyndon. He himself, however, is blinded from age and is incapable, so not too much left on his life, but he looks like he has remarried. He's on his 3rd wife, but yeah, it would make sense that he's remarried to Mera Tallheart. The next one that we have is John Forrester, who is still actually alive and well. He's on his 3rd wife as well. The ones who are alive this long tend to be. And that is Beth Cassell. I think he was married to Beth last time as well, actually. And then he has 2 children who are very much still alive, and they have children of their own, who may even, yeah, not quite, but almost have children of their own. Next one that we have is Jack Baratheon, who is on his, only his 2nd wife. Oh dear. He had 1 child who did actually manage to have some children before she died. 2 Butterwells, who are still doing alright. The next one that we have, Oris Barath, still off over there in Last Lament, still married to Princess Symbia. And I think they have some more children since last time. Yeah, we have at least Chikya Ko must be new, and maybe Lacella Ko might be new as well. Next one that we have is Vorian Dane, who is still in charge of the Torrentine. I'm fairly certain he had cancer last time, so he's still alive with cancer. He hasn't had any children, though, and he's still married to Lady Elise, so his heir is Lord Edric the Holy, who at least is another R'hllor follower. And I believe this week he did manage to kill off another custom courtier, so not so great there. Right, next one that we have, or at least his actions led to another one dying. Next one that we have is Jack Tully, who I think is slowly causing trouble in the Trident by doing civil war claims and things like that. So, a whole bunch of interesting stuff that he's doing there. He's married to Lady Tyann Sand, and yeah, no new children, but his current children are still alive. He has a son who is a knight. Next one that we have is Alex Blackwood, who is on his 3rd wife. Okay. Keeping up with everyone else, Olene, and he has two daughters, Septa Melira Blackwood and Taita Blackwood. Is that 2nd Blackwood who's got a scepter? Because I seem to remember our old character, Ares. He was married to. Oh, he was married to a Tully. Who am I thinking? I'm sure I was. Wait, maybe it's our current one. I know I'm just looking around the place. But yeah, we're married to a Blackwood who has a sister as a scepter. So yeah, maybe it's a common Blackwood thing to have scepters in the family. Anyway, next one. Anders Miller is on his third wife. Okay. Had just got a new one this year by the looks of it. I make it sound like it was a car upgrade. That's not a good way of putting it. Anyway, yeah, she's chaste, so unlikely to have more children there. He has 2 sons anyway. Tomard Miller, who is not yet married, but nothing stopping him. And Andaha Miller? Interesting name. Andaha? Anyway, he is matrilineally married to Caitlin of Silver Springs, and they have 1 daughter, Ariane of Silver Springs. Next one that we have is Hall Florent, who is still alive. I think he had all of this stuff last time, so yeah, he's still on the edge of death. Married to Bethany Sloan and has many sons. He has Melos Florent, who is unmarried. Mathos Florent, who is unmarried. He has a daughter who is unmarried. He has Renly Florent, who is unmarried, and Garth Florent, who is unmarried. What a weird, like, why are they all unmarried? I don't really understand that. Anyway, next we have Sir Karma Corbray, who is on his 2nd wife. Had this wife for a while, Marianne. And he has 1 child still left alive. Marwyn Corbray died of grayscale. His wife died of winter fever. Has 1 son, Hugh. And he also has a daughter who is married to a Malcolm and was previously married to a Bar Emin. Go back one. Yes, married to Malcolm, and he has 1 daughter, Kella. Well, she has 1 daughter, Kella. Next one that we have is, that's not Custom Porter. Next one that we have is Lady Helen Tully, who looks like she's got the makings of dysentery, is a lunatic, is incapable, is fire obsessed, is all sorts. Her daughters have been dying, Grey Plague, Grayscale. 1 daughter still alive, Melora, who is on her 2nd husband, Willis Woad, and they have 1 daughter, Sylvia. That was with her previous husband, Malin Ashford. Her other daughters were previously married. Oh, but we got a child here, Brune, Osmond Brune. Next one that we have is Mequinal Pike, who has converted his culture to Marinese, which means that he gets this awesome red beard, which, to be honest with you, is by far the best addition any courtier has got so far to their character. Is like the that is a stylish red beard. Anyway, he is on his 3rd wife. Okay. Yes. Oh, he got another one 2 years ago. He is the spy master of the Iron Shields. He is the great general and bodyguard, and he is part of the Iron Shields, the mercenary company. He has 1 daughter, Fezaria, who is strong. Next one we have is Corin Dusk, who is up there in the Night's Watch, but does not have any titles in the Night's Watch yet. Wait, does he have any children? Nope. Then we have Maragana Lannister, who has had 2 husbands but is not married again. This one was killed in a tourney joust, so that's that. Addison Marbrand was killed. We can't see who killed him. Interesting. And then we have Gran Wildhorn, who died of gout. She has 1 daughter who is incapable, or non, I guess incapable from cancer, bedridden. Okay. Married to Lucas Rote, has 2 more, has a son and a daughter, 2 more children. She also has another daughter still alive, Yara Goodbrother, who is married to Sir Christopher Chambers, and they have 1 son. Next one is Laris Lannister, who's in our court, married to Shira, and they have 1 daughter, Shella, who is married to Will Long. Next one that we have is Devon Trant, we already pretty much looked at. Was previously married to Zanata Zoe, is now married to Ariel Sherry. Next one that we have is Lyra Reed, who is incapable of cancer, married to Sir Wendell Frey, and with no children. The next one that we have is Zotho Zoe, who is still married to Lady Osha Kroll, and they have 3 children, Milena, Jarka, and Roos. So we'll go through them there so you can see all of their stats. Right, next one we have is Branton Risewell, who is married to Jonquil of Low Barrel, and he has 1 daughter who has died of the Grey Plague, who was previously married to a Belmore and had 1 daughter. And he also has another daughter who's still alive, married to Gior Ashwood, and they have a daughter as well, Janessa. Next one we have is Isaac Wendane, who is on his 2nd wife. I think he was on that last time, Lady Anise Baratheon. He had a daughter who was added in as a custom courtier who has died in the week that she was added of winter fever. And then Timion was in charge of the Stormlands before there was some revolt war, or he was revoked by his liege, but whatever happened, he no longer holds the Stormlands, but holds some nice claims on the Stormlands, which might turn out to be something. He's married to Gwyneth and is currently hiding out in the Santagar court. The next one that we have is Taris Paybridge, if I can find it, there we go, who is on his second wife still, and they have 2 children. Donella, who is married to Robert Royce with many children, and Wallace, who is married to Lady Joyce Rushmore, and they have no children. The next one that we have is Stevran Stormy, who is on his second wife, Lawless, and just thought I'd have a look at her stats there. And they have 1 child, Conan Stormy. Well, his previous wife, Jonquil, and him have 1 child. And he is married matrilineally twice. He married to Marissa II, and I believe they have 1 child together. Oh no, that's Silver Springs, his previous child. Anyway. Next one that we have is Medea Stokeworth, who is married to Lord Gawain Harding. And they had many children, but most of them have died of pneumonia or the winter fever. One was married to a Bywater and had a son. Next one was married to a Donninger and had no children. And then the last one was born stillborn. So I don't think they have any children left. No. Next one that we have is not a custom courtier, so we could skip it and go to Rupert Seaworth, who is married to Serena. And they have 1 child, Donice, who was married to Lord Perkin Follard. The next one that we have is Van Connington, who is on his second wife, married to Jonquil, and they have 2 children. Well, him and his previous wife, Maris. John Connington and Celise Connington, who is actually quick, fantastic at genetic traits, finally getting through. Then we have Lysander Thares, who is incapable. He's also well in the running for potential Stormlands winner because he is related to the king. I think he was also handed the king at one point as well, so he could get it. Now, since last time, he got a custom courtier, Rami Thares, added as his son, and he is married to Lynette Estamont. We're just going to do him at the same time. Child is Helicent, still alive, and the other one is Stannis, who died stillborn. Now, Lysander had a daughter called Eleanor, who is married to Lord Master Doniphus Huron. And he had another daughter, Eleanor, who died stillborn. Next one that we have is Aaron Baelish, who is married to Tysene Birch. And they had 1 child, Peter Baelish, who unfortunately died of the bloody flux. The next one that we have is Mario Quagile, who was married, still is married to Esma Beesbury. And together they have 2 daughters, Eleanor Quagile and Linese Quagile, neither of which are married yet. The next one that we have is Guadalupe Junio, who is married to Celise Sloane. They had 1 child who was born stillborn, and then Cassina Junio, who is married to Dake Greenfield. Next one that we have is... I've lost my position. Oh, there we go. Othero Nagum, who is master of the Sand Ship. He is on his second wife. First one was a Tully. Second one is Lady Serena. And they've only had 1 child together, Andre. And with his previous wife, he had Calette and Darren. Right, the next one on the list is Lazaro Mopatis, who was in several wars for Pentos, which didn't really seem to lead anywhere. He is married to Alson and has many children. Jaqua, who is married to Colio Natris. Torma, who is married to Isambaro Dahan, which was the house that he was fighting against. Then we have Lucaire, who is not betrothed or married. He had 1 son who died of dysentery. Then Merlin Mopatis, and then Cosimo Mopatis. The next one that we have is Joy Dustin, who is matrilineally married to Brandon Long, and has 1 child still alive, Ethan, who is of marriage age. The next one that we have is Luthane Redmane, who is married to Rowena Umber. And they have one child still alive, Cain Redman. Then we have Roxas Blackwood. Black Rose. I don't know where. I just saw the tree and went wood. Anyway, next one we had. Well, not next one. Still on Roxas Black Rose. He's on his second wife, Julia. And they have two children, Alanis and Harlan. Oh wait, no, one's from a different wife. Yes, first one, Alanis is from his first wife. Harlan is from his second wife. Next one we have is Mikkel Tyrell, who was married to Elena, who has since died of food poisoning. So he could remarry. Nothing really stopping him. Next one we have is Reynard Bluepill, who is married to Alla Westbrook. The first child he has is Commander Branford Bluepill, who is on the King's Guard, which is very impressive. And he has a daughter, Leona, who is married to Alla Will. Okay. Now, is he, did he convert? Wait, not him. Did the Blue Pill convert? No, he's still R'hllor, so his children have decided to go off against his wishes. Next one we have is Princess Meraxia Waters, who is still in our court and is still pregnant. Amazing. It's a really long pregnancy, this one. Anyway, next one we have is Girion Valerian, who has managed to become Lord of Driftmark. I actually forgot that this one was a custom courtier because we had quite a few Valerians. But yes, he's Lord of Driftmark and R'hllor follower, and things are going well over there. He's on his second wife, Roga Mekor, and he has a daughter who is married to Roxton. He also has a son who died sickly infant. He has another daughter who is not yet married, and he has another daughter who died as stillborn. The next one that we have is Bibbit Vripwin, who was married to Sir Jamie Hersey, but he died of the winter fever. She had two children. First one's Osric Hersey, who is married to Alara Cox, and the second one is Urena Hersey, who is betrothed to Pate Woad. Where were we? Bibbit. Then we're on Athelos Went, who is on his second wife. First one was married normally, second one's matrilineal, and that's of Woodfoot Watch. And they have one child. Well, his first wife has one child with them, who is Thomas Went, who is a Faith the Seven follower. The next one that we have is Mathos Morag, who is still commander of the Gates of the Moon. He is on his second wife. First one was Muriel Greyjoy. Second one is Lady Gretchel, and he has had no children yet. The next one that we have is Justin Lionsbane, who is over in Pentos. He was married to Elise, who has died, but they had one child, Cedric. The next one that we have is Baneth Seret, who is commander of Lannisport. I think that's a new title for him. He is married to Sarah of Lannisport, and he has 5 children: Jonathan, Tyressa, Kenos, Jocelyn, and Roldir, who is a genius. Ooh. Next one that we have is Lothar Baratheon. That is not a custom courtier. Neither is that. Definitely not. This one, no. This one, right, next week. Now we have Ceres Stormheart, who is on her second husband. First one was Osric Royce. Second one is Lomos Bywater. She is now celibate, which is definitely not a trait she started with, as she has 2 children. First one is, well, both have been Lord of Runestone. And the one who is still alive is Lady Amabel? Yeah, who is not yet married because she's 8. So no betrothals yet either. Next one we have is Hugo Quarlin, who is in our court as a sworn shield. He and a commander. He is married to Elaine, and they have had no children. Next one we have is Damon Martell, who is, I have lost track of him entirely because he's off in Gis. Okay, he's married to Ariane, who is not in Gis, so I guess maybe he was trying to kill his wife and got caught and exiled, possibly. And he has one son who's still alive, who is weak and is in Gis. Next one that we have is Astrid Raider, who is now married to Andrion of Antler Vale. Oh no, was married to him previously as well. Yes, did she not try and kill him and we exiled her or something? Anyway. She has one daughter, Grizzle, who is a wildling, but follower of Faith the Seven. Next one we have is Tak Tak Co, who is matrilineally married to Ronit Roka, and they have had no children. Next one that we have is Nathaniel Stark, who is now Lord of the North in a war for the Trident that he can easily win. Also, I'm going to fix that because I just noticed that was going to split up. Yeah, he's in a war for the Trident, which he can easily win. But yet, that is not the most impressive thing about him. Not the thing that made me stop and go, oh my god, it's starting already. We have him as the owner of a dragon egg, which means that the dragon time is about to start very soon, because if his dragon gets, if he actually gets his dragon to hatch, then there's going to be a dragon rider in the north, there's going to be more dragon eggs, things are going to start spiraling out of control, and everyone's going to have a dragon. So, good job there, Nathaniel, with your dragon egg. Anyway. Next one that we have is... Oh, I suppose I should do the rest of them. He's married to Alison Hayes, and he has 3 children. Lady Margelle, Lord Rob, who is heir to the north, and Lady Sibel, who is quick but sickly. Next, we have Garth Oakhart, who is... Oh, this all got split up as well. I think I want to do that. Yeah, that's what I was looking for over there. Anyway, next one we have is Garth Oakhart, who is married to Jaqua Marinolis and is over in Pentos. Okay. Yeah, he could still have children. I think we're getting into the newer ones, so there's going to be less large families to look at. The next one that we have that was Garth Oakhart is Arthur Morgan. So this is a new batch that we're hitting here. Married to Lozara Dalt. And, yeah, nothing really to say there. Next one we have is Rami Tharius, who we've already looked at. Then we have False Seaworth, who has already gone through a husband, who died from food poisoning. She was previously married to a Tudbury, and is now spymaster for the new Tudbury. Then we have Vorian Dane, who has acquired himself a Valerian's... has acquired himself the ancestral greatsword of House Dane. How he managed this, I'm not entirely sure, but he got it. He's married to Diana. I guess maybe somebody just gave him it, which seems unlikely, but there you go. He's also now the Sword of the Morning, which, yeah, not entirely sure how that happened, but there you go. Maybe there's an event for it. Next one we have is Colrin Fireblade, who is not yet married. Then we have Mikael Love, who is married to Jocelyn, and they have 1 daughter, Leona. Then we have Valar Mandalay, who has managed to get himself the Lordship of Ramsgate. I believe he's also got a faction up there to take over White Harbour, and he's married to Lady Beth of Ramsgate, Lady Beth Hooton, and they have 1 son, Hosmond Mandalay, who is attractive. The next one we have is Devon Magnar, who is married to Arya Lake, and they have 1 son, Whiten Magnar. Then we have Jan Stokeworth, who is married to Sylvia Boggs, and they have 2 sons, Maliard, and they also have Damon. Not much else. I think that is everyone. I think John Tully is not one. Yeah, the rest don't look like anything. Who the hell is that? And why is he on our special interest list? He just shouldn't be on our special interest list. I don't think. No, he's definitely not a custom courtier. They'll put in the of Chevrix. Unless his house came from somewhere. Nope. Anyway, thank you for watching. We got through those fairly quickly, but there were a lot of deaths at the start. Again, just to reiterate the point, no custom courtiers will be added for the next 2 weeks at the very least. If you want a custom courtier added, it will be added after that point. I will still keep a note of where they are. Basically what I do is I keep a note of where in the comments I've got up to, and then after that point I look for custom courtiers as they go through. Again, if I miss anyone, please tell me and I will add them in, as I have occasionally noticed the odd one that I miss when checking through it the first time and catch it the second time, but there's always a chance that I miss one going along the way. Anyway, thank you for watching, see you next time, goodbye.